In the following days, Detective James couldn't quiet his mind, as the threads of the case had become dangerously tangled. There were still missing pieces of the puzzle, but he felt that the solution was near. James began an intensive search for the mysterious man that Ethan had been investigating. He combed through old police records and reviewed files of unsolved crimes in the area where Ethan had lived as a child. After hours of searching and scrutinizing, James found a name that caught his attention: Richard King. This man had been linked to several mysterious incidents in the past, but nothing had ever been proven against him. After his sudden disappearance years ago, the investigations surrounding him had ceased. James began to wonder if Richard had returned to finish what he had started. Indeed, he had a strong feeling that Richard was the key to solving this crime. James decided to search for any trace of Richard in the present. After an intense investigation, he discovered that Richard had been living under a false identity in a small town a few hours away from the city. James had only one option: confrontation. He prepared to leave, taking with him all the evidence he had gathered, and headed towards the town where Richard was hiding. The town was quiet, surrounded by dense forests, adding to its sense of isolation and mystery. Upon arrival, James began to surveil the house where Richard was staying. His movements were limited, and he rarely left the house. James began to suspect that Richard knew he was being watched and might be preparing to flee again. The next night, James decided to confront Richard directly. He sneaked into the house under the cover of darkness, ready for anything. As he entered, he found the place meticulously organized, but something felt off. On the table in the living room, James found an old photograph of Ethan with his family, with a note written on the back: "You can't escape the past." Suddenly, James heard footsteps behind him. He slowly turned to find Richard standing there, holding a knife in his hand. "I knew you'd come," Richard said in a cold voice, "just like Ethan did." But James was prepared. Thanks to his intense training and quick reflexes, he managed to dodge the attack and brought Richard to the ground. After a brief struggle, he was able to handcuff Richard and turn him over to the police. In the days that followed, the truth began to unfold. Richard confessed to killing Ethan after he had gotten too close to uncovering his old crimes. He also admitted to a series of crimes he had committed in the past, bringing an end to years of mystery and fear. For James, the case was closed, but it left a deep mark on him. He realized that the past could haunt any of us, but the courage and determination to face the truth are what can save us in the end.